2023 to be a year of significant declines in inflation, and it's actually our job to make sure that that's the case. But I would tell you that, with inflation...
Hello, welcome to Financial Stockholm. I'm Christopher Crystal. Today is Friday, February 10, 2023. And these are our thoughts on what we're seeing in the market and what you might find interesting. Of course, for any advice on your investing, you should speak to your investment advisor. None of this is meant to be investment advice for you, just information on what's happening. So we're continuing to plow through our earnings. SAAB, the weapons manufacturer, did relatively well, and there's a war, so this is great for them. However, their planes will not be heading over to Ukraine, and and oddly enough, India has bought the Russian MiGs instead of SAAB. But SAAB still did very well. And we're seeing other companies come in. Some are doing well, some are doing poorly. Of course, the krona rose yesterday, but then it's dropped back down a little bit. And I think what's most interesting for us in the Nordics is, of course, the energy. And what we look at now is that the cost of the war in Ukraine, and how this is impacting us, and this is coming in the form of energy, and it's also coming in the form of the weapons technology that's being sent over to them. There's an article discussing the tanks in the Wall Street Journal, that the tanks are not arriving in Ukraine. And what's interesting here, and this will be something for the Swedish politicians, is that the cost to NATO is supposed to be 2% of your GDP. The reason why the tanks are not going over to the Ukraine is because some of them are not battle ready. And we already had this where a lot of the equipment that was sent to Ukraine was ineffective because it wasn't really up to date. So it hadn't been maintained, it hadn't been taken care of properly. So you have to wonder, where is this 2% going? And then why weren't countries spending 2%? And that was a question that the previous administration in Washington was asking, and asking why to have NATO. But Russia's stepped up their attacks, so they've launched a lot of missiles, and there were reports that they have something like 800,000 troops ready. We'll see what they have, but I think over the weekend this is going to be a very tough time for Ukrainians, and it looks like it'll be a very heavy shelling weekend for Ukraine. So hopefully people will be okay. But it doesn't look good. And then, so I think, from the U.S. side, there was a question about how much spending will continue. You're already starting to see some Republicans putting together a group that is calling it for less spending on Ukraine, and we'll see what happens there. But also in the earnings front here in Sweden, we see that pharmaceutical sales and clothing online look to do well. For more information there, you can look to SCB, so S like Sam, C like Charlie, B like boy.se. You can get all the Central Statistics Bureau information there, and on our shopping trends. Great Britain came out with their figures today for their GDP, and in Sweden, we're looking at it with a little bit of a half full mentality, saying they declined, whereas everybody else is saying, okay, they didn't decline as much, and they were able to show a little bit of growth. So that's certainly a positive for the global economy, but a negative for the global economy would be Russia cutting gas production, and so that's going to hurt us here in Europe, and the cost of energy, just when we gotten through the tough time. But we do have a warm winter, so hopefully we're okay. And then the question of subsidies, how to match against the United States, what they're doing there on subsidies for green tech. This is a further discussion, and what will happen there. So with that, I wish you a fantastic weekend. This will be an interesting one, more for media. We have the Super Bowl going on in the United States this weekend, so we'll see what happens there, but there'll be a lot of advertising, and the cost of the Super Bowl ads will be out on the, that'll be all the rage and discussion next week. So with that, we'll wish you a great weekend, and thank you very much. Bye.